Okay, gonna get this out of the way right from the start. This video will have spoilers for episode 2 of season 2 of The Last of Us, and if you haven't seen that already, I recommend you pause this video, go and check it out, and then come back after that. So I just finished the episode, and I got some thoughts, possibly some hot takes that I'm pretty sure a lot of people out there will get angry at, but I genuinely don't care. So before starting the episode, I came across a bunch of different posts online on socials from people talking about how it was an amazing episode to watch, but it was also very painful and very gut-wrenching. And I kind of feel like a lot of the people making those posts are maybe ones who have only seen the show on its own, which is totally fine. So I made this post on Threads where I talked about how if you've only ever watched the show in isolation, then this episode was actually great, with the exception of a few minor pacing issues here and there. But if you're someone like myself, who has also played the video games, then I personally feel like it was kind of just okay. I also saw so many people out there who supposedly played the game talking about how even if you've played the second game, you are not prepared for this episode. You might think that you're ready, but you're definitely not. And I can tell you that as someone who knew what was coming, I was absolutely prepared for it. In fact, maybe a little bit too prepared for it, because honestly, I actually ended up being a little bit disappointed by it, and specifically by the ending. And what I find crazier is that there are people out there who say that they've played the game and they think that that scene, you know what scene I'm talking about, in the show is more impactful than it was in the game, which I personally just think is a really, really weird statement, but I'll get to that in a second. Now, hear me out. I know that there are some people out there who will call out people like myself who have played the game and are expressing the fact that they might be a little bit disappointed by how the show handled certain things this episode. And they're gonna say that the reason we're doing it is because we're just salty. We're salty that the show didn't take absolutely everything from the game and copy it one-to-one. But that's not it. I fully understand that there are certain story elements in The Last of Us that only work within the video game, because you need to experience them in the context of the game mechanics and you need to be able to play through them at your own pace. And that's why back when season 1 started, I was well aware that they would need to change some stuff, and some of it pretty drastically, in order to actually make it fit within the context of a show. And credit where credit's due, I feel like they've been doing a pretty good job of that so far, especially considering how closely they're trying to stick to the original source material. So changes in general aren't something that I have an issue with, but what I do have an issue with, especially in this episode, are some of the subtle changes that they did to what I would call one of the most pivotal moments in the story of the second game. And the reason I have an issue with those changes is because I kind of feel like they didn't really even need to happen. They felt like they served no purpose, and if anything, they almost felt like they took away from the emotional impact that I personally got from that scene compared to what it felt like in the game itself. And this is where we're going to get into spoilers, so again, if you haven't seen the episode, pause the video, go and check it out, and come back after. So aside from some changes leading up to Joel getting captured, the scene where Abby tells him who she is and what she wants is pretty close to the original. Joel still gets shot in the leg and gets beat up and everything, but they did make some weird, subtle changes to the moment when Ellie arrives to the lodge to try and save him. In the show, she rides her horse over to the lodge, and then she walks in, she hears a commotion on the top floor, and then you get these 2 or 3 quick shots where she's listening to the noise, and then she just magically teleports in front of the door where everything is happening. And after that, when she walks into the room, the scene plays out almost the exact same way as it does in the game, until you get to the very end of it, which I'm gonna get to in a second. For comparison, in the game, Ellie gets there the same way, and then she leaves her horse and she sneaks into the house. But then after hearing the noise, you get to walk around the building a bit more as you're trying to find out where it's coming from. And again, I totally get that this works well because it's a game, so I don't expect the character in the show to walk through absolutely every single room in the lodge while she's looking for the noise. However, the reason why I feel this works so much better in the game than it does in the show is because in the game, as you're walking around the lodge trying to figure out where the noise is coming from, you're constantly listening to Joel getting beat up. It's not just punch, punch, grunt, oh, okay, that's where the noise is coming from, that's where I gotta go. The entire house is dark. You're exploring the different rooms until you you eventually land on the one that you're looking for. But the thing is, in the show, all of that tension that's being built up as you're walking through the lodge in the game while you're listening to Joel getting wailed on is totally lost. And to me, it just doesn't make sense why they decided to do that. Because I kind of feel like this episode could have easily been like a minute longer, and it could have shown us Ellie actually exploring a little bit more of the building, trying to actively find where the noise is coming from instead of making it seem like she hears it and instantly knows exactly where to go. We could have definitely gotten a few more scenes where she's sneaking around and you can tell that she has a really bad feeling about what's going on, but she's forced to listen to it until she can eventually see what's up. Because I genuinely think that that building of tension is what makes the reveal of Joel behind the door so much more shocking. But then we get to the moment that I have an even bigger issue with because of unnecessary changes, which is that moment. Back when Season 1 was released, people who played the games were constantly spamming these memes about how the people who only watch the show are eventually gonna end up not being huge fans of golf. And within the context of the video games, that meme made a lot of sense. But after watching the latest episode of the show, the only thing that I'm not a fan of are pointy metal sticks. So instead of finishing Joel off with the infamous golf club, Abby just stabs him with the broken handle of that same golf club that everyone who's played the game was expecting is gonna finish the job. And that just doesn't make sense because it feels like so much more of a quicker and cleaner way to end things for him than you're led to believe back when Abby was talking about how she wanted to make sure that it was as slow and as painful as possible. And it just kind of doesn't really feel like it fits the situation, and it also feels a little bit out of character for her. Like, the way she talks about getting her revenge on Joel leads you to believe that she wants to make it as brutal as possible, which up until that point, it was. The kneecap with the shotgun, then beating the wound with the golf club, then repeatedly wailing on him, and for what? To then stab him and like give him a quick way out? It just feels weird considering the tone of the situation. In the game, Abby is brutal and she wants to be, at least when it comes to Joel. And one of the other characters, who's one of her friends called Owen, has to pretty much snap her out of it and tell her to just finish what they came to do and then leave as quickly as possible. And even when she listens to him, even after she agrees with him, that final hit that she delivers is just as brutal as everything before that, and it really adds to that visceral feeling of the scene. And it's exactly that brutality in her actions that sticks with Ellie for the rest of the game and pretty much fuels her actions later on. And the whole premise of the story of the second game revolves around this concept of the cycle of brutality and the violence. So if they're planning on doing their best to actually stick to the storyline of the game, I'm really wondering why they decided to make these changes that ultimately just end up making that scene feel a lot more mild than it could have been. And also, there's this pretty big change about Dina being captured with Joel instead of his brother Tommy, which I feel like was a pretty big moment in the story for him in the game, but I'm just gonna try and stay open-minded about that one. So yeah, those are my thoughts about that moment in episode 2 of season 2 of The Last of Us. And I know a lot of people are gonna disagree with me, but if you're willing to be civil, I would actually genuinely like to hear your thoughts about the episode, whether you're someone who's only been watching the show or if you've also played the games as well. But yeah, let me know what you think, and that's all I got for this one. See ya.